Okay, let's get started, guys. Before I dive actual content, some of you I'm reading. So a lot of you have version in it, but then somehow when you execute this PG bad. The reason for that is you have another version of PG installed globally. Previous examples or whatever, Ruby might be confused. So you just run, say, Ruby might get confused. Hey, which version do you? So a way to fix that is to use something called bundle exec. You prefix all your commands, then the file you, and then Ruby file you want to. This will make sure that Ruby will only use the, the libraries, the gems you define your gem, and it makes sure that you're using the correct version. Just use bundle exec step.r will execute libraries. And that's probably the best convention. So every time you execute some Ruby file that contains gem file, always use bundle. Now sometimes you get a little bit, every time I have to bundle exec, that's very tiresome. There's a shortcut to that. Use you can actually add aliases to the line. For example, so I'm using ZSH. I think most of you are using Bash. You can edit a file called bash rc where you can edit aliases. For example, I can add an alias saying BE will be just bundle exec. So that every time I type BE, I'm actually typing bundle. So basically, I can just BE. Wait, now let's more on record, building relationship specifically. Let's say we're doing an app that's very similar to Slack, going a bunch of channels. Each channels can have a bunch of users, right? Basically, a user will have a user and a channel. User have a name, a channel have a name. Fairly straightforward here. But the relationship between the user and channel, is it has many? What kind of relationship? It's a many-to-many relationship because user have many channels, channel have many users. Right? In the morning we talk about how we do one-to-many relationship, where comment belongs to an article and article have comments. But how do we do many-to-many relationship? Right, right. You can create a joint. Did you guys already do the exercise? No. Right. Or have you guys learned it next? Oh, you guys have already learned. Okay, that's good. So you use a joined table, right? So let's do. How should we call the table? How should we name? So here we have users and channels, and one join model that connects will be a good name. Only three difficult things. One is second validating cache. But what would be a good name? Naming table. Like that name? How about better name? Let's do channel. I think channel membership. Make more sense. Whenever you're doing a channel, you become a member of it. And what should this table have in order to encapsulate relationship, the many-to-many relationship? Well, how many columns did you have? Or just, well, it's gonna have an ID by default. Foreign keys. Two foreign keys to, yeah, users and channels. References. Right, so now we have our schema set up. Do you think the schema is enough to build the many dimensional? How many things? Come on, you have to vote. Yes? That's enough. I think no. Definitely not. Right? All we need is connect users to channel membership and channels to channel preferences. Now let's so user going to have many channel membership, correct? That. And what about channels? Should channel belong what? Does channel belongs to or has many? Does channel have? But essentially, I don't want just to have many channel membership. I also want users to have channels that I can use it like this, right? Now, ideally, I want to be able to do something like channel.users, and it will return me all the users of that channel. How should I go about? So let's try if we can just do. I think that'll work. Let's try. That actually didn't give me any errors. Uh, but now the column channel is not used, right? Didn't work because active record would think that channel has many users, then users should belong to a channel. In that sense, the column should have a channel ID. But here we're building a many-to-many relationship, so that user ID column can't exist. Channel ID column doesn't. What we can do is we can passing in join model. In this case, the if you channel.user is going to look for channel membership Then again, on the channel membership, is look for user. Now it's complaining channel membership doesn't exist. Sense because we haven't defined it yet. Let's define our channel. And what relationship channel membership has many users, or is it belongs to you? Belongs to you. Belongs to you. Now we have the channel membership class. Channel should be defined the correct join model, and then it will look for the on catch. Let's this. This references. Now we get an empty array, which is fine. But we now want to actually add a user to a channel. We want to add this for a user. How should we do? That work? Create a new membership, and that should basically associate that user. And indeed, with our user gets added. Fine. Now there's some other ways to do it, right? Instead of creating the membership directly, we can also use, let's say we have Roy, just like the has many relationship, one-to-many relationship. We can also do Roy.channel. We also want to define a user has many channels. Now instead of creating a standalone channel, have Roy channel directly. Channel membership. Because when we're doing this, Active Record is smart enough to know, hey, there is join model, and I'm gonna create that join for you. Work. And if we look at our database, you can see that join model was created, even though we didn't explicitly, but it is created by Active Record. Now we can also do the other way around, right? Now we have the channel. Let's say we want to add another user. Channel.user. That should give me 2 users. That's Roy and Michael. Now, instead of going all the troubles of creating this new table called channel membership and a new class called, well, why not just do, why not just have user have, say, basically what this does is it creates a column, an array, a column where you can store an array of, basically what I'm saying is here, Why not just create a column that have an array of channel IDs on users? Why go through all the troubles of creating this new class? But versus I can just put that array there. Then if a user sees many channels, I just append the channel IDs, right? Then if I want to find the users of a specific channel, I can search on all the array. So why go through the trouble of creating a new table? So it's easier to work with. What other benefit do I get by creating a new table? Right. So table is normalized. Well, that's not 100% true, because if you don't have a table, it's yeah, it's not really that it's not normalized on the table. Nothing to know. But the benefit you get is flexibility. That's correct. Is what if now I want to have, say, a user can be an admin? It does not make sense to have attributes. Does not make sense because we only want this user for the admin for specific channel, right? But if we have the channel membership, we can now do, say, inside the membership, we can now tell, hey, is this guy an admin of that channel? So that's kind of the main benefit of having a joint model. If all you need to do is to have many-to-many relations, sometimes you don't, like, if it's really simple one, there's no extra attribute. I would argue you can just have an array. That, but for extensibilities, always consider. And also, when we fetch channel.user, notice that active record knows that it should join fetch the have to join it. But you always have to make sure no one joins. Because if this, let's say now, let's make one. Let's say we want to find channel.user. We also want to find there's not just all the users inside that channel, but user with name specifically Roy. Let's say I want to find all the users with name Roy inside this channel. How would I do that? What method should I use to find a user, all the user named Roy inside this specific channel? There, okay. Okay, that works. What if I now want to find add in? Okay, so once you have the attribute added to the join model, you can't really, if you want to change this attribute, you can't really do it like this anymore because there's no way to specify the attribute for the membership. We have to channel first. This way now we can specify. Now I want to find all the users that is an admin. One approach will be let's put the error is column users.admin. Right, so it's trying to search on the column of user instead of channel membership, which is not what we want. Now I actually want to filter on membership. The way to do that is specify I want membership. And actually give the where clause which tables or which that would return. Again, this turn it. I don't know how the join is done. Membership and admin. Question for generally. Okay, that's pretty much for relationship. Now let's do better. Well, not better, but more useful is a validation. So Active Record not only give you a way to interact with the database, it also give you a way to validate, especially when you're creating new. Let's say we have used also have an email column, which cannot be null. User have to provide. And we want to be able to validate. So right now, if I create a user, I don't give it ID. That will actually trigger an error. Database would explain, hey, not value validate. But obviously that's not a good way to tell the user, hey, because that's an exception and crashes your. Don't really want an exception. We actually want to do extra step here. We want to do validate. If valid, then we. If not, then we do something else to tell the user, hey, haven't. So the way to do this is, well, the valid question mark method is already provided by Active Record, but you need to tell the record what should it validate on. Right now, if you valid, so it's always true because we haven't told it what to. So let's validation. Way to do validation, start with validate, then pass in the attribute, then the validator you want to use, then the options. Now presence is a built-in Active Record validator. That there's a list of all the built-in validators. Go to the guide. Validation helpers. Well, these validation helpers are basically bunch of acceptance where you can validate the term is accepted. Informations, format. For example, if you want to validate the email conforms with format, then format validate expression. Then doc is present. Validate that if it's given. Okay, so once we add that, and then we give it an specify an email, this should return false. Check that. And very good, it returns false. But we want something better, right? Instead of just returning false, we want to tell the user, hey, what is wrong with it, right? So active record gives you a way to see that will basically print out. That returns you an instant active model error. Saying target that you validated on, messages of that error. Here it says email can be blank. Okay? So now we can kind of use this to valid. If it's valid, we save it. If not, now there's sometimes when you are building a relationship. Let's say let's say this code is written by a developer, right? And when we save the file, when we save the user, we expect not to fail. If it fails, then it should raise an exception. Well, what do we do to force it to? One way is you can obviously set the not false here. But let's say we're not that strict, but we want user.save to actually raise an exception. It's not valid. You can use a more aggressive version of save ban, where if it's invalid, then it's actually going to raise an exception. Whereas if you just user.save, even though it's invalid, it's not going to raise any exception. It's just going to return you false. But if you didn't check the result, you don't know. In some cases, if you're sure it's correct, then it's better to use ban, the more working problem. If it doesn't, it screams at you then. So here, if I use user.save, right, it would explain validation failed, crash my program. But if I just use .save, it actually doesn't really tell you, unless you make your database hard. You have to use print method. So every method that changes the data actually have a more aggressive version. And fails value. The ban and other ban, it does, even if it fails, it's have to manually. So here we're using a built-in validator, very useful, and Rails provides you, Active Record provides you many of the built-in validators. Sometimes the validators are not enough. Built-in ones want some custom logic to validate. One way to do it is you can write your own validation method. Let's say I also want to validate if let's say we want to blacklist on those. The way to define a custom validate custom validation method validate. Notice this. So if you use validate with an S, it means you want to use either built-in validation or you want to use custom validator. But it's more common. But if you just want to use a method on this specific instance to validate input, call it without the S. Yes, makes sense. Now here I can then define this method. Then I need to actually, how should I check if the given email is Ruby? How do I check if something is question mark? And what should I pass in this? How do I get my current email? That actually this current. Okay, so if it's included, then we want to add an error. We want to make this whole user valid, right? We can do this by the errors is again the method that would add to the error, give it the attribute name, and now if valid validation, failing validation. Here you can see email is blacklist, right? Now be careful, is you have to call valid question mark before you call, because if you don't call valid question mark, the errors is always going to be empty, never validated. And another thing is, have you guys learned about private a little bit? So what does private method? What's the difference between private and public method? Right. Within the class, yes, correct. The private method. Why make a difference? Why make such thing private method? So the whole thing about object-oriented programming is about encapsulating class. They expose as little as necessary, right? It's kind of like if you're building your, let's say Apple is building this MacBook, right? You only expose certain actions. There's only a USB port. There's only a power adapter where you can plug in power. There's some HDMI port, and that's pretty much it. Even though there's lots of stuff inside the MacBook, you can't really touch it. The same thing goes with designing a class. You only want to expose the thing you want other developer to use, right? For example, this validation, I don't really want other developers to touch it. I don't want other users of this class to touch it. I designed this validation method, and you should just make sure your class is valid before you save it. So here I make it private. So private method basically means nobody other than the instance itself can. Here, actually, the validate method it's a the method of itself, so you can call this method. But if I do this will give me an error. Method doesn't private method allowed to call. So use private method as a way to clean up like the interface, the interface of your class. Only expose the one, hide the thing. Any questions? Validation. Building server validation. Right. This validates when you put in this database, but you can also use validate. Well, actually, you were saying that so before when I get user input from a client or React, I validate first, then I save it to database, right? You would when the user input comes in, you will basically create an input using their input, right? For example, here this email is, and then before I save it, I would check if it's valid. So basically, I use this as a way to validate user input. Does that answer your question? Yeah. So this is to validate user input. I mean, if it's yourself writing it, there's really no point validating because mostly it's questions. Good. Now, else. So other than validation, there is other stuff you can do with your data, with specifically your input. And there's a way to make change. But for example, let's say we want to implement where user can email, right? But then there's some people there's going to be users that right? It accidentally, maybe intentionally, to capitalize the first letter. User is created, but then later on you want to find this user, right? Then you do like this by, that actually doesn't find you any because spaces doesn't match exactly. Why I get nil? That's very frustrating. What we want to achieve is so that every email that gets passed in will get downcased. That we search with downcased. Now we want to do this obviously after validation, so it's not blacklisted. Make sure it's present, but we want to do it before it's saved. And there is many convenient callback functions to active record. They allow you to trigger some specific functions on specific life cycles. Callback. Callback. So you can define your callback to execute at a specific lifetime. For example, in this case, downcasing emails, we want to downcase the email before we save the object, right? So the callbacks run in order, right? Before you validate, when you call validate question mark, before validation gets called first, have the callback defined. Then after validation gets called after it's validated. Then when you save, before save gets called, then after save. And we can use this callback to clean up this example to clean any other stuff. Let's say find a call. Private method. And this will get executed for saving. For saving it when it's up, down case. Undefined method. Right, now you can see the email. There is and if what if now let's say we want to do yeah, so you can use any of those methods, and you can define even multiple ones, or say multiple ones. And there is also times where you only want to execute some validation based on some specific condition. Say I only want to downcase email if say we don't make the part. We only want to downcase the email if the email is being given. Check if so if the email is not given, then this one. Is with the email, you should get a callback. So we should only ever right. For enough, only it's not provided. It's oh okay. So this is basically a convenient way to turn something right. So here I want my email given, and the email is nil, it should return false. Instead of returning nil, it should return. Now I can use not email. Hit that again. This basically guarantees always return. If email is a string, then by default it's true. Then negate that, it's false, and then negate again, it becomes. Also, here if I just use what's the difference between why sometimes use stop and with if I just use email equals because when we just do that, it becomes even though if we read this variable, reading from active record instance variable. But when we want to set it here, when we set it, if we don't specify self.email, it's going to assume this email is just a local variable, meaning that after this function is done, this. So when you're setting variables, well, not instant variable, but the column specifically for record. But when you're reading it, it's not required to want, you can make sure when you're setting it. Another question? Very quiet. Oh, then guess we're done. Okay, well, guys.